Welcome back to the channel, where the stories are real, the drama is raw, and sometimes, family is your biggest problem. From foster parents eyeing a teen's inheritance, to roommates losing their minds over imagined flirting, today's stories are messy, emotional, and more relatable than we'd like to admit. Let's jump in. I told my parents they were never really parents to me. Now they want an apology. I'm 18, and for as long as I can remember, my life has revolved around my older brother. He's 21 and on the autism spectrum. Medically, he's considered high functioning, but he figured out early on that threatening a meltdown would get him whatever he wanted, and it worked. Every single time. Doctors told my parents that he absolutely understands his behavior. But my parents? Nope. They insisted they knew better and that he couldn't help it. So they never held him accountable for anything. Meanwhile, I wasn't allowed to have a life of my own. Every decision I tried to make, hobbies, friends, jobs, anything, had to be put on hold because it might mess up my brother's routine. I wanted to join a sports team? No chance. Thought about getting a part-time job? Not happening. Even hanging out with friends was basically off limits. I try not to carry resentment, but it's hard not to when your entire childhood feels like it was sacrificed for someone else. Now, I'm finally making a big move. I'm planning to relocate a few states away to live with my grandparents and go to school, something I've been dreaming of for a long time. But my parents? They're freaking out. They've been laying the guilt on heavy, saying I'm abandoning my brother and making me feel selfish for wanting a life of my own. They've thrown every line in the book at me, and I usually just respond calmly, saying I'm sorry they feel that way, but I'm still leaving. Then it hit a breaking point. My mom started going off about how the world doesn't revolve around me, how I was being selfish, how my brother was going to suffer because of my choice. She even had the nerve to claim that she and my dad were always the best parents they could be, that they treated us both equally. That's when I snapped. I told her flat out that she was delusional if she truly believed that. That neither she nor my dad had ever been good parents to me. They made everything in my life about my brother. I never had anything that was just mine. My brother was always the center of attention, no matter what. And the worst part? They knew it. I told her that the only selfish people in this entire situation were her and my dad. They chose to coddle him while completely ignoring me. He manipulated them constantly, and they just let it happen. I said, "Your son's routine isn't my responsibility." It never was. That's on you and Dad. You're the parents, not me. I asked her, point blank, if she honestly thought I should just give up my life forever because of my brother's needs. She started crying, and I walked off and locked myself in my room. Now my dad's demanding I apologize. But I won't. My grandfather, who I'm going to live with, told me he's proud of me for finally standing up for myself. But my parents keep insisting I was a bad person for saying all that. So here I am, wondering, was I wrong? Should I have kept my mouth shut? When you're finally done being the forgotten child, it takes guts to speak the truth even if your parents can't handle hearing it. Next, we go from emotional guilt trips to actual invoice receipts. Because nothing says family love like a surprise PayPal charge for watching their pets. They let me watch their house for free. Then sent me a bill? So, I'm not usually the type to vent online, but this one really got under my skin. I don't think I did anything wrong here, but apparently, my cousin, her boyfriend, and even her mom seem to think otherwise. Anyway, about a month ago, they asked me to house sit for them while they went out of town to visit family. They didn't offer to pay me or anything, but I agreed. I still live with my parents, so I figured a week away, just me and some quiet time, sounded like a mini vacation. They had a few pets I had to feed and look after, but nothing crazy. Honestly, it went fine. I watered their plants, kept everything clean, and made sure their pets were well taken care of. I left the place exactly how I found it. I didn't think twice about it after that until today. Out of nowhere, I get a PayPal request from my cousin for $184. No explanation, nothing. Just a random charge. So I called her immediately, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. She said it was my share of the utilities for the week I stayed there. I was floored. I told her, wait, hold up. I took a week off work to help you out for free, and now you're trying to charge me for the electricity I used while watching your house? She doubled down. Said I still had to pay for utilities, like it was some kind of hotel or something. That's when I lost it. I told her to screw off and hung up the phone. I was shaking, I was so mad. Then the messages started rolling in. She said she was going to call the cops, and even threatened to blast me on Facebook, telling everyone what a terrible, ungrateful person I was. I didn't respond to any of it. I had no intention of getting into a social media war over something this ridiculous. But sure enough, she went ahead and posted about it. A whole rant about how some people just take advantage of your kindness, trying to make me look like the villain. Here's the best part, most of the people in the comments took my side. They laughed at her post, called her out, and told her she was being absurd. Some even said she was just looking for a quick buck. Not long after that, she deleted the post and blocked me. Haven't heard anything since. According to my cousin, a different one, she's still sulking and posting vague quotes about betrayal and how family ain't worth it. Look, if she seriously thinks I should pay $184 for watching her pets and taking care of her house for a week, then maybe she owes me a few hundred for pet sitting. I'm just glad other people saw how messed up it was before I started second-guessing myself. If they want you to pay for electricity, maybe they should have paid for your time. Just saying. Coming up, a mother who crossed every line, and a doctor who should have known better. This next story is heartbreaking and infuriating. My doctor gave my mom private info about my miscarriage. So I reported her. I'm 26 years old, and to be honest, I've always had a rocky relationship with my mom. I also have an older sister, but for some reason, my mom's always tried to control me more. No matter what I did, even as an adult, she'd try to override my choices, claiming I was too young or too naive and that she always knew best. Things got especially bad after she tried to interfere with my marriage. I actually cut contact with her for a few months after that. Now, I've been married for 3 years, and my husband's always encouraged me to be more gentle with my mom, but this time, he was just as shocked as I was. A few days ago, I had a miscarriage. It was devastating. We were so happy and excited for the baby, and then it was just gone. The emotional pain hit me harder than I expected. I kept thinking it would get easier, but it didn't. Because of everything I was going through, I chose not to tell anyone. Not even my family. I needed time to process, and my husband promised to keep it between us until I felt ready to talk about it. But my mom, she kept poking. She'd ask questions, drop hints, bring up the pregnancy like she was trying to pry it out of me. I kept my answers short. I knew if I told her anything, she'd run and tell the entire family. She's always been like that. It's why I keep my private life locked down. To create a little space, I stopped visiting her for a couple of days, hoping she'd drop it. And then I found out she announced my miscarriage on Facebook. I hadn't told a single soul outside of my husband, and suddenly my phone was blowing up. Family members calling, texting, asking why I was hiding it. I was blindsided. I called my mom, absolutely furious. I demanded to know how she found out. And that's when she said the unthinkable, she'd talked to my doctor. She told me not to be mad, because, in her words, I'm your mother. I have a right to know. I went cold. I couldn't believe it. I argued with her, told her she completely crossed a line, and that she had no right to share my private pain with the world. Then I went straight to my doctor. I confronted her and demanded to know why she shared my personal medical information. She tried to calm me down, but I was beyond reason. I told her flat out I'd be filing a formal complaint. She had no right to tell anyone, especially not my mother. My mom found out about the complaint and freaked out. She started berating me, saying the doctor was just an old friend and meant no harm. She acted like I had overreacted and made a big deal out of nothing. She kept saying things like, "I'm your mother. You shouldn't treat me like a stranger. But honestly? That's exactly how she was acting, like someone who had no respect for my boundaries, my emotions, or my pain. Now, I'm getting texts from my brother saying he wants to come over and talk. This is the same brother who was the first to call and yell at me when the Facebook post went up. I haven't responded. I can't. I'm mentally exhausted and emotionally drained. I just need space. And I don't feel bad for reporting that doctor. Not one bit. What she did was a major violation of my privacy. If she did it to me, she could do it to someone else. I just hope my complaint prevents that from ever happening again. Grief is heavy enough on its own. The last thing you need is betrayal from the people sworn to protect your privacy. Now let's take a sharp turn into influencer land. When someone's dream career becomes everyone else's nightmare, sometimes you've just got to say what everyone's thinking. I told my roommate's girlfriend her dream job was a total joke. Now they're furious. I've been living with this couple for about a year and a half now. I'm in my early 20s, and they're both in their early 30s. It's not the worst setup, or at least, it wasn't at first. The guy works himself to the bone. 2 minimum wage jobs, clocking in over 50 hours a week just to keep things afloat. Meanwhile, his girlfriend is chasing her dream of becoming a full-time influencer, which basically means she doesn't work at all. Every time I see her, she's either posing for Instagram or messaging brands trying to score free stuff. And to be clear, she hasn't made a single dollar from any of it yet. A few nights ago, when she was out, her boyfriend had a full-on meltdown. I mean, he was actually crying. Said he was completely drained, working nonstop, barely making rent, and drowning under her spending habits. The guy even had to call his parents for help just to make it through the month. I felt awful for him. He's clearly stretched too thin. Fast forward to last night, we were all hanging out and the topic of money came up. She started whining about how broke they were and how it was holding her back from doing the things she needed for her brand. So I tried to be polite and asked if maybe she could get a part-time job, just until the influencer stuff took off. Her response? Instant attitude. Said that wasn't an option. She didn't want to put her dreams on hold. I asked, okay, but what exactly are your dreams? She looked me dead in the eye and said, to inspire people. I couldn't help it. I said, to do what? Nothing? She got super defensive, saying I didn't understand what goes into it, how much work it really takes. But let's be honest here, she posts latte pictures and yoga poses, slaps on a default filter, and calls it content. I didn't want to get into a whole debate about what counts as influencing, so I changed the subject and told her that her boyfriend is seriously struggling. I told her that he's overworking himself and it's obvious he's not happy. I suggested maybe she could help carry some of the load, just a little. She looked at me and said, I don't see why we both have to be unhappy. At least one of us should be chasing their dream. And that's when I lost it. I said, if your big dream is to sit around doing nothing while your boyfriend grinds himself into the ground, then yeah, that dream is pathetic. Later that night, I got a text from the boyfriend saying I'd crossed a line. Now he thinks she's a joke too, and everything's blown up. Honestly? I do feel kind of bad for being that blunt. But I was just so tired of sitting there and pretending like what she's doing makes sense. He's killing himself trying to support them both while she sips oat milk and takes selfies. So, am I in the wrong here? Chasing your dream doesn't mean someone else should break their back funding it. Up next, a teen who finally gets a break in life only to have new foster parents start circling like vultures. Yeah, it's that kind of story. My foster mom left me $80K. Now my new foster parents want it for surgery? I'm 16, and I've been in foster care for literally my entire life. From what I was told, my birth mom was really young when she had me, and her parents basically forced her to give me up. What was supposed to be an adoption ended up being years of bouncing around different homes. Somehow, a letter from her actually made it to me. I was shocked. In it, she told me that giving me up was never what she wanted. She said I was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen, and that she hoped I'd find her one day. And I will. I plan to. But her parents? No chance. After everything I've been through, they're nothing to me. In the past 16 years, I've lived in 3 orphanages and been shuffled through 17 different foster homes. Most of them gave up on me the moment they got their first aid check. A few kept me a little longer, but none of them ever felt like home. Until my last foster mom. She was different. She didn't just pretend to care, she actually loved me. I could feel it. She went out of her way to connect with me and show me that I mattered. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. I felt safe. But 3 months ago, she passed away. She had cancer, and I didn't even know she was sick. It hit me hard. She had written me into her will, left me $80,000 in a trust fund I'll get when I turn 18, plus $12,000 in cash that I can use now. After she died, I was placed with new foster parents the very next day, no warning, no introduction. They barely even spoke to me. Gave me a quick tour of the house and then just left me alone. That's basically how it's been ever since. They act like I don't even exist. Lately though, my new foster mom's been making these weird comments. Stuff like, I really need this surgery, but how could we possibly afford it? And it's always when I walk into the room. She's never once had a real conversation with me, so I'm guessing someone, probably my caseworker, told them about the money. I don't even know what the surgery is for. And honestly, I don't care. That might sound harsh, but they don't treat me like a person, just a monthly check. And they're already getting $750 a month just to have me in the house. So here's where I feel conflicted. I've got this money, and yeah, maybe I could help her pay for the surgery. But why should I? She doesn't treat me like family. Heck, she barely acknowledges I'm here. And let's be real, in a few years, I'll be 18, out of here, and these people will forget I ever existed. Just like all the others. Still, part of me wonders if it makes me a bad person for not offering to help. I mean, technically they are giving me a roof over my head. But the way I see it? That money was a gift from the one person who ever really loved me. And I'm not giving a dime of it to people who don't care about me at all. So, am I in the wrong? When someone shows you love for the first time, their legacy should be honored, not handed over to strangers who only see dollar signs. Now for a story that proves toys aren't just toys, especially when they're worth 15 grand and end up stolen by your ex's new man. Yeah, buckle up. My ex's new husband stole my $15,000 Lego sets. So I sued him. My ex-wife and I got divorced about 3 years ago. She cheated on me, but honestly, I was already emotionally checked out by then, so I didn't even care that much. The reason I'm suing her and her new husband has nothing to do with the cheating, it's because they straight up stole from me. We share custody of our 12-year-old son, 50/50ths. He's a great kid. Over the years, his hobbies have changed a bunch, but for a long time, he was super into Legos. And I loved it too. We'd build together all the time. It was our thing. Even after he outgrew them, I kept collecting rare sets. Some of them are unopened and worth serious money now. After the divorce, I found out her new boyfriend was also into Legos. Honestly, cool, I don't care if they build together. But here's the thing, this guy superglues the pieces so the sets can't be taken apart or lost. That always rubbed me the wrong way. Anyway, last week I had to go out of town for 3 days for medical stuff. My son texted me and asked if he could swing by to grab his PS4 and a few games so he could use them while staying at his mom's. Totally normal, he has a key and he always lets me know before coming over. The weird part? When I checked the entry camera, I saw her new husband was with him. That was a problem. I've made it very clear that guy is not allowed in my home. So through the speaker, I told him to stay outside and wait. He looked startled but still followed my son inside anyway. I was already irritated. Later that night, my son texted me, saying he thinks his stepdad took some of my Lego sets. At the time, he didn't realize it, just saw the guy grab a bag. But when I got home, I did a full check, and sure enough, a few sets were missing. And these weren't just toys, 2 of them alone were worth thousands of dollars. So I called my ex. She acted surprised, but eventually admitted her husband took the sets because he wanted our son to have a complete collection. Which makes no sense, my kid doesn't even like Legos anymore. My son straight up told her he didn't ask for them and that stealing from me wasn't okay. Good on him. I asked how much they were willing to pay to replace the stolen sets. Her answer? We can't afford that. In fact, the value of what was taken would wipe out their entire house savings and then some. So I gave them 2 weeks to pay me back or I'd file a police report and take them to court. And that's exactly what I did. This isn't petty, what they took is worth enough to count as felony theft. Now everyone in their circle is calling me a joke for suing over toys. But I don't get it. These aren't just toys, they're collector's items. They're worth real money. I'm not rich. I was holding on to them as a backup plan, possibly to help pay for my son's college or maybe even help him get a place of his own someday. So yeah, they're calling me a jerk for suing, but they walked into my home, ignored my rules, and stole from me. That's not just disrespectful, it's illegal. Am I wrong for wanting justice? When someone breaks into your home and your trust? You don't let it slide, you call the cops. Even if they think it's just Legos. Next, a father makes the hardest call of his life, firing his own son after a betrayal he never saw coming. I fired my own son after he betrayed me. And my wife hates me for it. I'm a 44-year-old guy, and this whole mess started when my 18-year-old son, Adam, was struggling to find a job while prepping for college. I run a small warehouse business on the side, and my wife suggested I bring Adam on board. We were short-staffed anyway, so it sounded like a win-win. Adam was thrilled. We talked over his hours and pay so he could still balance school and practice, and for a while, everything seemed fine. That is, until the day we had a shipment of computers delivered. The client asked us to hold on to them for a few days, and everything was documented, including the exact number of boxes. That night, while doing inventory, I noticed one computer was missing. I gathered the staff, everyone except Adam, and asked around. No one had a clue, and it looked like a simple mistake. So I brought it up at home. That's when Adam told me he saw one of the workers hide a box in the garage to take home. I was confused. When I asked which worker, he hesitated but eventually gave me a name. I confronted the guy, someone I've known for a while, a single dad with 3 kids. He swore he didn't do it. I told him to return the box if he had it and we'd talk things through. The next evening, I got the idea to check the security footage. What I saw hit me like a truck, Adam, my own son, loading one of the computer boxes into his friend's car. Then they drove off. I knew the friend. Let's just say, not the kind of kid you'd want your son hanging around. But regardless, Adam was the one who took it. I confronted him that night. He denied everything, and my wife jumped to his defense. We argued for hours, but in the end, I fired him. I told him he was lucky I wasn't calling the cops. The responsibility was on me, my client trusted me to take care of their equipment, and my own son betrayed that trust. Adam broke down crying, and my wife was furious. She said firing him was too harsh, that I should have just docked his pay or given him a warning. She kept pushing me to give him another chance, but I stood firm. I ended up apologizing to the worker Adam had blamed. I told him if he knew anyone who needed a job, I'd be happy to hire them. He recommended his brother, who started with us right away. Now my family is turning on me. They're calling me heartless for hiring a stranger instead of giving my own son another shot. But here's the thing, the computer ended up at his friend's place. And while I wouldn't be shocked if the friend put the idea in Adam's head, it was Adam who went through with it. I had to do what was right not just for my business, but for Adam. Actions have consequences. You don't steal from your workplace. Period. Sometimes love means saying enough. And if it takes a hard consequence to make someone grow up, so be it. And finally, a grandfather caught between his past and his present. When your wife's toxic and your stepdaughter just became a mom, you've got to choose who you'll protect. I refused to let my wife see our grandkid. Now everyone's against me. Alright, hear me out. I'm a 46-year-old guy and, years ago, I lost my daughter Molly to brain cancer. She was my only child, and when she passed, it completely shattered me. I've never really been the same since. Later on, I remarried. My wife already had a daughter from a previous relationship, Emma. When I came into the picture, Emma was around 15. And let me tell you, things between her and her mom weren't exactly peaceful. Her mom, my wife, used to kick her out of the house over the smallest things, like failing a class or even just getting a haircut. I'm serious. One time, when Emma was 17, she got kicked out for something as harmless as writing in her diary. That was the final straw. She left and didn't come back. She started working and trying to support herself. I stayed in touch with her because I couldn't bear to see her struggle. She reminded me so much of Molly, independent, strong, determined. I offered financial help, but she refused. She wanted to stand on her own 2 feet. So I found another way to support her. I called up someone I knew and got her a job, one where she'd be appreciated and paid fairly. She's an artist and wanted to get into graphic design, so I even sold my car to pay for her courses. She insisted on paying me back little by little, because that's just who she is. At the time, she was living with her boyfriend, now husband, who was also helping out financially. Meanwhile, my wife? She wanted nothing to do with Emma. The day Emma got married, her mom disowned her. But I told my wife, straight up, I'm going to stay in contact with Emma whether you like it or not. And she'd just have to respect that. Emma and I grew closer. She even started calling me dad in front of people. She never used to, she used to just say my name. But it felt like I was finally getting another chance at being a father. Now Emma is 22 and just had a baby girl. I've gone over to visit a few times, and during one of those visits, she told me something that hit me hard. She said it was tough losing her biological dad, but that she was grateful she had me. I'm not the most emotional guy, but man, I cried. Now here's where things went sideways. My wife found out about the baby and demanded I give her Emma's address so she could go visit her granddaughter. But Emma specifically asked me not to share it. She just had a baby, she's dealing with postpartum, and she knows how toxic her mom can be. I told my wife no. That's what Emma wanted. And my wife exploded. She said I was being cruel and selfish, that this was her grandchild and I had no right to keep them apart. The argument spiraled fast, and now not just my wife, but the whole family's coming at me, saying I'm in the wrong and need to stay out of it. We fought about it again. She insisted I had no right to keep her from her daughter and grandkid. But the thing is, she didn't apologize. She didn't show any real concern for how Emma felt. She just demanded what she wanted. But I'm standing my ground. I'm not giving her the address. I'm not throwing Emma under the bus just to make my wife feel better. At the end of the day, boundaries matter, whether you're calling out your parents, protecting your space, or standing up to someone who thinks they can walk all over you. These stories? They're not just drama. They're lessons. So if any of them hit home, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.